Ladies, I need you to hear me tonight, because I ain't up here just talking. I'm speaking on something that's real. You ever seen a strong man walk away from something he thought he could handle only to realize he just let go of the best thing that ever happened to him? See, rejection feels like strength in the moment. It feels like control. It feels like I made my decision. But what if that decision was made out of fear? What if that rejection came from a man who didn't know how to love the way you needed, but he wanted to? Now he's sitting in silence and you're gone quiet. No text, no closure, just space. That's silence. That's not peace for him. That's punishment. Let me tell you something about men. We ain't always been taught to feel. We've been taught to fix. And when we can't fix it, we freeze. That rejection, that might have been him freezing, not fleeing. There's a difference. Rejection isn't always final. Sometimes it's fear wearing a mask. And see, most folks hear rejection and they think it means the door is closed, the conversation is over, and that person made a choice with full confidence. But let me tell you something most people don't want to admit. A lot of rejections don't come from clarity. They come from confusion. They come from a place of fear, of not feeling ready, of thinking you're going to mess it up before you even get a chance to make it work. People be out here rejecting blessings because they don't believe they're worthy of them. Let's talk about men. Most of us weren't raised to process feelings out loud. We were raised to perform, to protect, to pretend we got it together, even when we're breaking inside. So what happens when a good woman shows up? A woman who sees through the mask, who touches something inside a man he ain't never had touched before. Emotionally, spiritually, deeply. That kind of closeness feels dangerous to a man who ain't healed. That kind of love feels like pressure when all he's ever known is pain. So what does he do? He runs, not always physically. Sometimes it's emotionally. He distances, he pulls back. He throws out words like, I don't think this is working, or you deserve better. Not because he doesn't want you, but because deep down he doesn't believe he's enough for you. But he don't know how to say that, so he puts on the mask, and fear speaks in its place. And fear will disguise itself real slick. It'll sound logical. It'll say, you're not ready for a relationship. It'll say, you need to focus on your career. It'll say, she'll be fine. She's strong. But what it won't say, what fear will never admit, is that the truth is you're scared of what this could become. Because this is real. This is different. This is not what you're used to. So he rejects it. He rejects you. And you walk away thinking, damn, he really let me go that easy. But see, it wasn't easy. It was easier than facing himself. Easier than confronting the parts of him that still don't feel lovable. And that's the truth a lot of people don't want to touch. That rejection ain't always a decision. Sometimes it's a defense mechanism. It ain't always about you not being enough. Sometimes it's about him feeling like he's not enough. And rather than risk being exposed, he shuts the whole thing down. Now he's alone, sitting with the silence, playing back the moments, replaying your words, your laugh, the way you looked at him like he was more than he believed about himself. And he misses it, but he don't know how to come back from it. Because once a man puts on that mask and sends you away, his pride won't let him knock again. Not unless he's done the inner work. Not unless he's swallowed every lie fear told him, and most won't. Not because they don't care, but because they never learned how to come back after they pushed something good away. So yes, that rejection, it may have felt final, but it wasn't. It was a scared man hiding behind pride. It was a broken man pretending to be whole. It was a soft man trying to look hard. And the saddest part, a lot of them don't even know that's what they did. They walk around convincing themselves they made the right call, but late at night, when nobody's watching, they know. They know they didn't say no to you. They said no to healing. They said no to love. They said no to peace. And if you ever wonder why some people seem to spiral after pushing someone away, why they start acting reckless, why they chase distractions, why they can't sit still, it's because they're trying to outrun the one decision that haunts them. The rejection they made out of fear. They thought they were in control. But they were being controlled by fear, and fear don't care about your future. It only wants you stuck in your past. Rejection ain't always a closed door. Sometimes it's a scared soul slamming it shut because they don't trust what's on the other side. But just because the door closed doesn't mean it was supposed to stay closed. Sometimes that rejection is really a pause, a moment of fear wearing the mask of decision. And the tragedy, too many good things get lost in that moment, not because love wasn't present, because fear got the last word. Silence is one of the most underestimated forces on this planet. See, people think silence is peaceful, like a calm night or a deep breath. And yeah, sometimes it is. But other times, silence is thunder wrapped in stillness. It's a storm that doesn't make a sound, but it shakes a person to their core. When someone chooses to go silent, not because they need space, because they want you to feel that space, that's not healing, that's war. We've all heard that old phrase. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But let me tell you something that ain't always wisdom. Sometimes that's just avoidance dressed up as maturity. Because silence, when used with the wrong intention, cuts deeper than any insult ever could. Words you can argue with, You can explain, defend, even apologize. But silence gives you nothing to fight, nothing to fix. It's a weapon you can't block because you don't even know where the next hit is coming from. People like to play strong by shutting down. They say, I'm protecting my peace. And hey, I respect protecting your peace. But some folks ain't protecting peace. They're punishing people. There's a difference. When you purposely go silent to punish someone for hurting you or confusing you or not showing up the way you needed, that's not strength. That's control. You're not healing. You're holding power over them by making them feel your absence louder than your presence ever was. And when it comes to relationships, silence hits different, especially when it comes after rejection. When someone's trying to reach you, trying to understand, trying to make sense of why you disappeared, why you ain't answering no more, and all you give them is silence, that silence starts to speak for you. And what it says is, you don't matter, your words aren't worth a response, your pain is not my concern. That ain't closure, that's cruelty. Some people think silence makes them look unbothered. Like if they don't respond, they win. But let me tell you, silence don't mean strength. It just means you walked away before the conversation got real. You know what takes strength? Facing the hard talks. Saying, yeah, you hurt me, but I'm willing to speak. Saying, I don't know how to fix this, but I'm not going to leave you confused. That's real strength, because the easy thing to do is nothing. The brave thing to do is speak. And for the one on the other end, that silence can be torment. It's overthinking. It's going back over every conversation, wondering what you said wrong. It's nights staring at the phone, hoping for a reply that ain't coming. That silence ain't quiet, it's loud. It screams all the things you're afraid to say out loud. It tells someone they're not worth your truth. And listen, sometimes you don't owe everyone your words. That's real. But don't confuse healthy boundaries with emotional manipulation. You know the difference. Deep down, we all do. People forget that silence don't always bring peace. Sometimes it just leaves people wounded with no explanation. That's why it's dangerous. Because you think you walked away clean, but the person you left in the dark is bleeding from a cut they can't even see. They don't know why it hurts. They just know something broke. And when you silence someone who wanted to understand, who tried to love you, even if they got it wrong, that silence becomes poison. And it don't just poison the relationship, it poisons how they trust, how they love, how they show up for the next person. So yeah, silence is powerful. You better believe it. But it's not always wisdom, not always maturity. Sometimes silence is just a game people play when they don't have the courage to speak with honesty. And if you're the one using silence to control, to punish, to avoid responsibility, let me tell you something. The damage you're doing might be invisible, but it's real. You might not see the tears. You might not hear the prayers. But they're happening, and just because you're quiet doesn't mean you're innocent. Use your silence to center yourself, to heal, to breathe, but don't use it as a sword, because silence can cut deeper than shouting ever will. And sometimes the words you didn't say hurt more than the ones you did. Men are taught to walk away, not to come back crawling. From the time we're boys, we're told that real men don't beg, real men don't chase, real men don't cry, and real men sure as hell don't come back on their knees. You make a decision, you stand on it, you take the hit, keep your head up, and you keep it moving. That's what the world tells us manhood looks like. That's the armor they strap on us before we even know how to use our own hearts. But here's the truth, most folks won't say out loud that armor. It gets heavy. It's made of pride, shame, ego, and silence. And sometimes behind all that metal, there's a man who wants to turn around. A man who wants to admit he was wrong. Who wants to say, I miss you. Who wants to say, I didn't know how to love you the right way back then, but I'm trying to learn. But he don't, because the world didn't teach him how to do that. The world taught him that crawling back is weakness. That vulnerability is defeat. That coming back after walking away means you failed. So instead of crawling back, he suffers in silence. He scrolls through your pictures, but never likes them. He types out a message, but never hits send. He rehearses what he'd say if he saw you, but he never picks up the phone. Because somewhere in the back of his mind, he's hearing that voice, that loud, unforgiving voice that says, don't you dare crawl back. That's not what a man does. And the worst part, sometimes he really does want to fix it. Sometimes he's lying to everybody around him, talking like he's unbothered, like he's better off, like he's focusing on himself. But that's just a script. The real story is happening late at night when the phone is quiet and the memories come back loud. When he remembers the way you looked at him like he was more than his mistakes. When he thinks about the way you stayed when every other woman might have walked. But now you're gone. And he's stuck not just in regret, but in a trap built by his own pride. Because men are taught that once you walk away, you don't turn around, that you save face, even if your heart is falling apart. That apologizing is optional. That explaining yourself is too emotional. So instead of returning, we replace, we distract, we numb. We jump into something new, not because we're ready, but because we're trying to prove we didn't need to go back. We try to forget, but deep down, there's a piece of us that knows the truth. We left something real behind. And real love, you can't outrun that. You can cover it up, you can push it down, but it doesn't disappear just because you walked away. Now let's be clear, not every man who walks away deserves to come back. Some walk out and burn every bridge behind them. But there are also men, good men, scared men, broken men, who walked away not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how to stay. They didn't know how to fight for love without feeling like they were losing themselves. And when they finally realize what they gave up, they don't know how to come back because nobody ever showed them how. No one ever said, it's okay to admit you messed up. No one ever said, it doesn't make you less of a man to go back and try again. We don't teach men how to return. We don't teach them how to rebuild what they broke. We only teach them how to walk away like it's a badge of honor. And so they do. Even when it kills them, there are men walking around every day looking strong on the outside, but inside, they're haunted by the one they let go. They'll never say it. They'll never show it. But you'll see it in their eyes if you know what to look for. You'll hear it in their laugh when it doesn't quite reach their soul. You'll feel it in the way they look at the next woman, searching for something they already had and lost. And that's the tragedy of it. Not that they walked away, but that the pride in them wouldn't let them crawl back to something worth saving. Because somewhere deep down, they still believe the lie the world told them, that to come back is to be weak. When in reality, crawling back with honesty takes more strength than walking away ever did. Pride will block healing if pain is left to echo in silence. You better believe that. Pride is one of those things that disguises itself so well, it'll have you thinking you're protecting yourself, when really you're just prolonging your pain. Pride don't always look like arrogance. Sometimes it looks like stubbornness. Sometimes it looks like I'm fine when you're not. Sometimes it sounds like they don't deserve a response when deep down your heart is begging for a conversation. What most people don't understand is that healing requires honesty, not just with other people, but with yourself. And pride hates honesty. Pride don't want you to admit you're hurt. It doesn't want you to say, that breakup shook me, or I wish I could make it right. Pride would rather you suffer in silence than reach out and risk rejection. Pride would rather you sit in a room full of broken memories than walk into a room where forgiveness might lie. It blocks you. Not with chains or cages, but with lies you start to believe. Lies like, if they cared, they'd reach out, or I'm better off alone, or I'll heal when they apologize. But healing don't work like that. Pain doesn't go away just because you hide it. And silence is dangerous when you're hurting. Because silence becomes the place where your pain echoes, not once, not twice, over and over again. You replay the moment, you analyze the words, you rethink the goodbye, and that echo grows louder with time. Pride won't let you release it. And silence keeps it bouncing around your spirit like a ghost that refuses to leave. And you know what happens when pain echoes without being addressed? It turns into anger. It turns into resentment. It turns into bitterness dressed up like strength. That's when you start saying things like, I don't care anymore, when really you care too much and don't know what to do with it. That's when you shut down, when you become emotionally unavailable, when you lose good people because you never healed from the last one who broke you. A lot of people are out here blaming time for their healing, saying, time will fix it. But time don't heal nothing if pride is standing in the way. You can let months pass, years even, and still feel that same sharp sting when you hear their name. Because it ain't the time that's the problem. It's the pride. It's the part of you that refuses to speak on the pain, to admit that it hurt, to say that maybe, just maybe, you need to let it out to let it go. Pride will have you sit in a room full of people who love you, but you still feel alone. Pride will have you scrolling through your phone, wanting to reach out, but you throw it on the bed instead, saying, now I'm not going to be the one. Pride will keep you locked in a silent battle with your own heart, while the person you miss has already moved on. Not because they didn't care, but because they got tired of waiting for a word you never sent. And sometimes the person you're hurting the most with your pride is you. You think you're punishing them by not calling, by not speaking, by not explaining. But you're the one carrying the weight. You're the one still walking around with unresolved pain tucked into your chest like a secret. Pride tells you, keep it quiet, keep it strong, keep it tough. But healing needs you to be real. Healing needs confession. It needs expression. It needs sound. And if all you give it is silence, it will echo until it hollows you out from the inside. Don't let pride make you miss your moment. That moment to say, I'm still hurting, or I wish I would have handled things differently. You ain't weak for wanting peace. You ain't soft for needing closure. You're human. And every human needs to unload the weight of their pain before it turns into something that poisons their joy. But pride don't want you joyful. Pride wants you guarded. Pride wants you to think that pain is power if you don't show it. But I'll tell you the truth, the most powerful thing you can do is heal.
Fully, freely.
Out loud. And the first step toward that is breaking the silence. Because as long as pain is left to echo in silence, healing can't hear its name being called. And pride will keep you mute even when your soul is screaming. Sometimes your silence is louder than your love ever was. I mean that You can love somebody with all your heart, bring them flowers, write them messages, hold their hand through hard times, say all the right things. But the moment you go quiet, that silence, it shakes something in them that all your I love yous never could. Because love is soft, but silence is sharp. Love holds. Silence cuts. Love builds bridges. Silence burns them. And see, the crazy part is, most people don't understand the power of their absence until they've already disappeared. They think silence is harmless. They think it's peaceful, that it just means I need space or I'm done talking. But when that silence drops after connection, after vulnerability, after trust, it doesn't feel like peace. It feels like punishment. It feels like abandonment. It feels like betrayal wrapped in quiet. Some folks use silence like it's a shield. They don't want conflict. They don't want to explain. They don't want to own the damage. So they shut down, walk away, disappear. But what they don't realize is that silence screams. It screams everything you didn't say. It tells the person you weren't worth a conversation. It tells them your confusion isn't my concern. It tells them I'd rather you suffer in the dark than speak my truth in the light. And you think you're being strong. You think you're being dignified. But that silence becomes a wound that keeps bleeding long after you leave. And don't get me wrong. Sometimes silence is necessary. Sometimes you do need to step back, take a breath, stop the noise. But there's a difference between silence for clarity and silence for control. Silence for peace and silence for punishment. And most people, let's just be honest, don't use silence because they're healing. They use it to make a point. They use it to remind you that they have the power to withdraw, to leave you wondering, to keep you pacing in your own mind, trying to decode what went wrong. That's where it gets dangerous. Because when someone cares about you, they feel your silence deeper than they ever felt your presence. They start overthinking every little thing. Did I say something wrong? Did I miss something? Were they pretending the whole time? And every day you stay quiet, those questions get louder. Your silence becomes a story they start writing without you. And it's usually full of pain, rejection, and regret. And it don't matter how much you said you loved them before. In their heart, silence rewrites the script. Sometimes the loudest breakup ain't the one where voices get raised and tears hit the floor. It's the one where you stop responding, where you go from good morning to nothing, where you used to say, I'm here. And now all they hear is the echo of your absence. That's the kind of ending that haunts people because it leaves them with no closure. Just a ghost of love that used to speak and now won't even whisper. And here's where it hits even harder. Some of y'all think silence is the clean way out. That if you just disappear, nobody gets hurt. That avoiding the hard conversation is better than having it. But silence ain't clean. It's messy in its own way. It creates wounds that can't be stitched. It keeps the door half open, half shut, and makes people sit in a hallway of confusion, waiting for a response that may never come. And if you ever really, truly love someone, I mean love them, then silence should never be your final act because real love explains. Real love, even in its ending, chooses truth over avoidance. Because if your silence is louder than your love, then maybe it wasn't love, maybe it was convenience, maybe it was comfort, but it wasn't commitment. Because commitment don't vanish when things get hard. Commitment communicates, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it hurts. So the next time you're tempted to go silent, ask yourself, am I doing this to protect my peace or to protect my pride? Am I creating space to heal or am I creating distance to control? Because your silence has a voice and it says more than you think. And sometimes it drowns out all the good you ever said before. Because no matter how much you said you loved them, if they only remember the silence, that's what stays. That's what sticks. That's what echoes. You can be the peace he's praying for, or the lesson he'll never forget. That's real. See, a lot of women don't even realize the kind of power they hold in a man's life. Not control, not manipulation. I'm talking about influence. Soul deep, heart level influence. You might think he doesn't show emotion, that he's guarded or cold, that he's moving through life with a wall around his heart. But what you don't see is that late at night, when no one's watching, he's praying for something. Not for money, not for success. He's praying for peace, for rest, for someone to meet him where his soul is tired. Because men don't always know how to say, I'm broken. They don't always know how to ask for help or healing, but they feel it every single day. That weight on their shoulders, that ain't just bills and work and responsibilities. It's emotional exhaustion. It's pressure to perform, to provide, to protect, while never being allowed to say, I'm scared, I'm tired, I need somebody to hold me for once. So when a woman comes into a man's life, she's not just showing up with a pretty face and good conversation. She's showing up with a choice, either be the peace he's been quietly praying for or be the storm he didn't see coming. Now here's the thing, being his peace doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you're soft all the time or quiet or agreeable. That's not peace. That's silence. Real peace is presence. Real peace is knowing he can come to you with his fears, his doubts, his mistakes, and not be torn down for it. Real peace is the way you love him when he's low, not just when he's on top. It's how you handle his honesty, how you respond to his broken places, Peace ain't about avoiding problems. It's about becoming a safe place during the problem. But here's the flip side. If you don't know who you are, if you're carrying your own unhealed wounds, your own anger, your own pride, you can end up being something very different in his life. You can become the lesson he never forgets. And not in a sweet, nostalgic way. I mean, the kind of lesson that reshapes how he loves. The kind that makes him question every woman after you. The kind that hardens his heart and makes him keep walls up even with the one who deserves to get in. Because he trusted you, he let you in. And instead of healing, he got hurt again, this time deeper, because he thought you were different. Sometimes a woman becomes a man's peace by just seeing not who he pretends to be, not who he posts as on social media, but who he really is behind closed doors. And sometimes she becomes his lesson by only loving the version of him that's convenient. The version that looks good on dates, not the version that's depressed at 2 a.m. The version that's ambitious and strong, not the version that feels like giving up. See, love ain't real if it only shows up for the good parts. Peace is proven in the pressure. And ladies, let me tell you something, you are powerful. You are valuable. And yes, you deserve love, consistency, and respect. But don't let your pain turn you into a battlefield. Don't let your past make you punish a man who came to you with hope. Because the truth is, the love you give can either be his anchor or the weight that pulls him under. And once a man associates love with stress, he starts thinking peace means being alone. He starts believing that solitude is safer than intimacy. And that's how good men start to fade. Not because they stop loving, but because they stop feeling safe to love. That's why this line matters so much. You can be the peace he's praying for, or the lesson he'll never forget. And whichever one you choose, he'll carry it, long after the relationship is over. Long after the messages are deleted and the pictures are gone. He'll carry the memory of how you made him feel, whether you gave him rest or gave him scars. So when a man walks into your life with a heart full of quiet prayers, just know he's not always asking for perfection. He's not looking for somebody to fix him. Sometimes all he's asking for is peace. And you hold that power.